This podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. Your San Diego County Toyota dealers. We've got what it takes. Fix Auto. Corky's Pest Control. And Lolita's Family of Restaurants.
Hey there, sports fans. Christian Pedersen here in the Hall of Champions because we are talking about potential champions. Joined as always by Coach Tom DeMeo from Santa Fe Christian for another edition of LaxCast. The brackets have dropped. No, the brackets have dropped. I'm sorry, I'm so excited about the playoffs that I can't even speak English anymore. We're here to talk about the boys Division I playoffs. I don't need to read it all off to you because we'll kind of work our way through it, but Westview, the 1 seed, Carlsbad, the 2, Scripps Ranch, the 3, Grossmont, the 4. Those are the 4 teams that all have byes, and they're moving on to the next round already. So we're going to talk about the games, though, that are still yet to be played in the first round. Got a lot of really interesting matchups. Got some North County versus South Bay. Got some East County teams sneaking in there. Let's just get it started right at the very top. Valley Center, Rancho, Bernardo. Coach, this is the 8-9 game, hypothetically speaking, in all of these brackets. The middle game is supposed to be always the one that's just a coin flip. Do you see it that way, or does one team have the edge here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think our RB is probably the better of the 2 teams, but there is that dynamic where, Valley Center has home field advantage, and RB has to take a pretty long ride out there. We played there a couple of years ago. It was cold. It was raining. Played into 4 overtimes. So my experience out there was good, but it wasn't an easy place to play. So I think that's certainly what RB's thinking is, let's go out there, let's take care of business, but let's not have any hiccups and not take care of business. So I think that it should be a solid game. I think RB comes out on top. They've played a lot of good teams this year.
Then there's something to be said about strength of schedule. Maybe you'll take a couple L's in exchange for keeping yourself sharp against really good talent.
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, Valley Center's played a lot of Division II teams, and RB's, played some open teams and a handful of all these Division I teams.
They played you guys a couple.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so I think RB. This is where you look at scheduling, and if you don't schedule well, it's time to pay the piper. So,
I could agree with that. It is interesting, though, because you mentioned that overall dynamic of Valley Center always has that home field advantage, that everyone has to hop in the bus for a 45-minute ride all the way up there. And if the weather goes south, it could be their day. But you got to think that for that one, Rancho Bernardo has just a little bit of the edge because of how hard they've played this season. Next game, the number 5 seeded La Jolla will play host to the number 12 seed Granite Hills. La Jolla, last year's D2 champions, sprinted out the gate. Really, they 10 games into the season, they were looking like they had successfully made that transition upwards. Now they've slipped all the way out of having a first-round bye. Can La Jolla right the ship? Are they going to make it through, or is Granite Hills going to end up being the upset, if you will, of this bracket?
Well, I think La Jolla is one of the dark horses, considering some of the games they've had. I mean, they just beat Westview by a handful, and they're the 1 seed. So I think if La Jolla performs the way they're capable of, they had an injury out to one of their top defensemen for a portion this year. But La Jolla has the tools. They have good goaltending. They have good coaching. I think they'll be a tough one to upset. They play well at home. I think you're going to see them going a little deeper into this round in these brackets.
What do you think Granite Hills would have to focus on if they want a chance at getting past La Jolla?
Well, I think they're going to have ball control. It comes up a lot when we talk about this. They're going to have to, win some face-offs and get some goals in transition, because I just don't think La Jolla is going to give it up that easy and, allow Granite Hills to have some real easy 6-on-6 goals. So I certainly think La Jolla has the advantage here.
So ball control, Granite Hills probably going to have to score early and often, give themselves a little bit of momentum, because like you said, La Jolla's got some really solid defense that we've seen them win on all season long. Moving down to the bottom half of this bracket, number 6 La Jolla Country Day is going to take on number 11 Eastlake. Really interesting dynamic here. The private school Country Day, they were semifinalists in D1 last year. They're back again. Eastlake, always kind of a weird team because they have talent, but they sign up for a really tough schedule, and they really take their tour of the North County teams that they can get their hands not, but then they flip around and play against some Southwest, some Hilltops, and so they Jekyll and Hyde for their type of season. Are they prepared and ready to take on Country Day?
Yeah, I think the story with Eastlake always runs through the goaltending with Nate McPeak, and he not only stops the ball, but he sometimes comes down and scores himself. I know he hit the crossbar against us, so he's a factor in the clearing game and even on the offensive side. So, I think La Jolla Country Day, they certainly have the ability to keep this game, a pretty good margin in this game and win this game pretty easily. But it's always tough when you play good goaltending. I mean, Eastlake definitely has a goaltending advantage, and if Nate makes the stops and makes it really tough, that game can be close. I mean, we played Eastlake; it was a 2-1 game, I think, at the first quarter. So, and then we sort of just poured it on. But sometimes those games lag out. Next thing you know, you're in a close game late. And so, I think Eastlake can keep it close. But I think La Jolla Country Day, if they play at their best, it would be hard for them to do.
So I'm getting the sense that maybe let's say this: if Eastlake can keep it within 2 or 3 by halftime, that you would kind of say this one could go either way.
Absolutely, they got to keep it close.
So it's going to all come down to, like we said, Nate McPeak. And folks, if you have not been out there to see them, because they're down in the South Bay, they're a little bit east, they're kind of hard to get to, them coming into sort of center San Diego at La Jolla Country Day, this is a great opportunity to see somebody who is a really talented lacrosse player in Nate McPeak. He's going to go play at Syracuse. I have a small bias towards that, being a Syracuse alum, but it's not something that you see every day, a kid from San Diego going to play in the ACC. So if you're just picking out of a hat, you got nothing to do on May 9th at, it doesn't say what time, but I'm assuming a 7 p.m. game. May 9th at 7 p.m. If you don't have anything to do, definitely go check that one out. The last game going on in the first round for Division I is Pacific Ridge, the 10 seed, playing the number 7 seed, Mount Carmel. Coach, reactions?
Well, I mean, I think last week I called Pack Ridge as one of the dark horses. I think they'll show this game if they are or not. But I think, both teams have been up and down over the course of the year. And Pack Ridge, they do some things that will give Mount Carmel some problems. And it all sort of depends who shows up. But I think this one's going to be one of the closer games of the bracket. Is in this first round. I definitely think, this will be a 2 or 3 goal game one way or the other.
2 or 3 goal game on a low scoring side, or 2 or 3 goal game on a runaway freight train, like a 23-20 game?
No, I think this game will be under 10. This will be a low-scoring game. I could see either team winning this game by 2 or 3 goals. But I think this will be like a 8-7, 8-5 type game. Maybe one way or the other. But I think both teams they have some strengths defensively that can give the other team scoring issues. So
a defensive battle there, if you will. Pacific Ridge, to me, somewhat of, like you said, an interesting candidate to kind of put your chips in on them being a dark horse. You can talk about, you talked about La Jolla being a dark horse, if you will, but they're still the 5 seed. They're someone that's up there. They're only 1 away from being the dark. This is a 10 seed. This is a team that, you put them into the next round. They take on a Carlsbad team that's been a little iffy at times, and you could be talking about Pack Ridge in the semis, in the finals potentially. And I know that that's still weeks and days off, but really interesting to get in early, fill out your brackets, pencil them in, circle the Firebirds, because you can always pick a great mascot like that. To me, just it really reeks of parity, of we don't have a clear roadmap to say in this bracket, oh, here's how it fills out. It plays out like the seeding suggests it does. So it's going to be a lot of fun. All these games are going to be going on May 9th. It will be 7, 5:30, doesn't say, and 7. We'll have further times on our Twitter. Coach, we'll see you on the 10th, and we'll talk about all this after the dust settles. Folks, keep it tuned with us, and thank you very much for watching.